games because of injuries and a suspension. His teammate Anthony Davis said that James is, quote, asymptomatic, but here's a reminder of the NBA's COVID rules. So a player with a confirmed positive case must be away from his team for 10 days without any physical activity. However, a player could also clear protocols by returning 2 negative PCR tests in a 24-hour span. So I want to welcome back in NBA senior insider Adrian Wojnarowski. So what is LeBron's status and how long could he be out, Woj?
Well, as you just described, Malika, 10 days in isolation for a player with a positive test or, of course, 2 consecutive negative PCR tests in a 24-hour period. So potentially, you could be looking at LeBron perhaps having the opportunity to play again by December 12th against Orlando at home. If you start playing this out over that 10-day period, a player's got to undergo cardio screening, and often there's a ramp back up physically if the player is inactive during that time in isolation. So the Lakers are preparing to be without LeBron James now, for a period of time, and they played essentially half their games without him this season.
So the bumps continue for the Lakers. And Woj, we have breaking news out of Miami. Bam Adebayo is going to have surgery on a torn UCL in his right thumb. Is there any sense of a timetable on his absence?
Malika, they're going to know better on a timetable after he has surgery in the coming days, but certainly this is an injury that's expected to keep him out well into January.
Thank you so much, Woj. Please don't go anywhere because we have even more news later in the show. So I do want to stay with Bam Adebayo for just a moment before we discuss LeBron James more. I want to start with our resident big man and big woman. We're going to start with you, Perk. What do you see as this impact that this could have on the Miami Heat?
Serious impact. I mean, they lack at bigs, right? I mean, no disrespect to Dwayne Dedmon. I think he's a star in his role off the bench, but he's not Bam. And I don't know how much mileage or how much, Udonis Haslem has left in the tank. But one thing I will not doubt is the organization of the Miami Heat. Remember, they the ones that went out and discovered Whiteside and went and got him from the G League, and he fit right in. So I guarantee you they're working right now to try to find some guy diamond in the rough to come in and help them out at the center position until Bam returns.
Okay. Yeah. Other post player?
It's interesting because both of us, we rep the 281, the 713 H-Town. And surprisingly in H-Town, when there was micro ball, PJ Tucker was playing the 5 for some time, right? So I love Bam Adebayo. I think what he does is really integral to their success. But they do have pieces and players that can really stop bigs from rolling. So it is a tough blow because their small center was Bam. And he was the most effective, not only on offense, on defense as well. So maybe PJ sort of goes back to what he didn't really love, but it sort of reinvigorated his career, gets a championship with the Bucks, and then now probably has to do a little bit more banging.
So again, just to reiterate to our viewers, this is breaking news coming into NBA Today right now. Bam Adebayo is going to have surgery on a torn ligament in his hand. Richard, what are you seeing as the immediate impact, and how would you approach this if you were Eric Spoelstra?
Well, look, they have so many different options. They can play small. You mentioned, PJ. One of the things that I like about this Miami team is that they're just going to be gritty. They're going to fight. They are lacking size. That's part of it. The thing about the injury for me is that, one, it's his right hand. So you want to be very, very cautious with that because you use that hand the most. And they have aspirations, very similar to them being cautious with Devin Booker in Phoenix with this injury because they predicting that they can go on a long run. I think Miami's the same way. So when you have a right hand ligament injury, this isn't a bone that just needs to heal. This is a ligament injury that they might have to attach. So I'm just looking for them to be very cautious. Hopefully this happened during the portion of their season where they can go through a little bumps, but then they can get the momentum going into the All-Star break.
And that's sort of the goodwill, the wins that they've built up to this point already, right? And they're hoping that they can keep it going. So the other piece of information that Adrian Wojnarowski just shared with us is LeBron James is going to be out for several games. The Lakers are 7-4 when LeBron plays, but they're just 5-7 when he doesn't, and that's including a pair of losses to Oklahoma City. So LA is also averaging more than 7 points more per game with LeBron in the lineup. So here's Anthony Davis on the Lakers. Just bad luck this season.
It wasn't like a shocker for us. We just said we can't catch a break. We was getting guys back, and then, he's out for how many days, we don't know. It's all depending on, his situation. But you still got to find ways to win. I think we played a huge amount of games without him. So we kind of know how that is already, and we got to continue to play like we did on the defensive end, until he's able to come back.
So you heard Anthony Davis say it. They just can't seem to catch a break this season. And without LeBron, they're 5-7. So let's go to the Wild West. So from what you've seen in the 12 games that we've already watched without LeBron, there's been some good, there's been some bad, there's been some ugly. And I'm going to assign each of you one good,
yes,
bad, ugly.
Yeah, give him ugly.
I was going to give it to you, but
give you ugly.
All right.
You showy.
Mr. Carry On himself, he can take it. I want to start with the good. I want to start with the happy. Janae?
Yeah, the good. I mean, I think Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis are givens. They should show up and show out every given night. So the good is that the role players last night were able to show up as well. When you have Malik Monk going off for 22, he's been that excellent role player so far, to the start of the year. And LeBron James championship teams always need a good shooter. Dwight Howard, 12 points. That was fun, and I feel like we're finally putting a little bit more respect on his name after the snub from the top 75 list.
Preach.
Carmelo coming in with 14. Taylor Horton-Tucker only had 2. We know that that's only likely going up. So if the role players are able to find their confidence like they did last night, going into a matchup, for the Battle of LA versus the Clippers, that is something good to hold on to.
Bad.
Oh, let me give you the bad, and there's a whole lot of bad, ladies and gentlemen. Now, look, I respect the Lakers. I think they're going to be just fine. But this is the most crucial portion of their season, the next 25 games. This will dictate if they can get up to the 2-3 seed or if they're going to be hovering around the 4-5 seed. Because look at these games right here. The Clippers, Celtics, Grizzlies, Thunder, Magic. They should win, 4 out of 5 of these games, but the only problem is starting November 29th, they have the hardest schedule left to go in the NBA. Woo. It's them and the Utah Jazz. So when you're looking at this team, they haven't gelled yet. They haven't been completely healthy. They haven't added a bunch of wins that kind of bank some wins to push it. What did they do? They have the hardest strength of schedule. They're still not playing great. They still have guys banged up. So to me, as a Laker fan, I'm not saying worry, but the road in front of you is a lot harder than it was behind you, and you didn't look very good when you look behind you.
UGLY?
The ugly is that Anthony Davis is not the best player on the Los Angeles Lakers, and he should be. This is a guy that is 28 years old. We saw him struggle last night in the first half, and then all of a sudden he turned it on in the second half. We all know their ultimate goal is to win the championship. But for us, when it comes down to Anthony Davis, it's time for him, especially with LeBron James out, for him to start making people respect him again as being one of the top players in the NBA, because it has been too much slippage and he has not dominated as he should.
Can I pick at that a little bit?
You can pick all you want.
Little
okay,
bit.
good. Just a little bit. If you mentioned
I got a beard to
slippage.
handle it.
Okay, good. I like that. And it's well moisturized, by the way.
Well,
Today.
I
I see you,
appreciate
Perk. He's missed 153 games. It's okay because you don't have.
I ain't got nothing
you
to
don't
say.
have it. You know what I'm saying? He's missed 153 games in his entire career, which is almost like 2 seasons. I see AD. While we want him to go up toe to toe with Giannis Antetokounmpo in those matchups and be dominant like we see Giannis, that's what we're expecting based on the talent that they both have. I think the hardest thing is that he's had a number of injuries over his career, and so if he's able to maintain, hold them on with some nice wins, but not saying win them all.
Yep.
I think that's his mindset, to be healthy and available in the playoffs.
Well, here's the thing about the good, the bad, and the ugly for the Lakers, and I can tell this is going on into the break. The good, the bad, the ugly for the Lakers is that sometimes it all happens, all of it, in one game, and we're going to see it against the Clippers, potentially more good than bad, more ugly than it. We'll see it all shake out. But you know what else had some good, bad, and ugly? That was the game in New York. So Julius Randle was hot last night. He says the refs are penalizing him.
Oh my gosh.
Devin Booker is going to miss some time with that hamstring injury, at least through that Friday return game against the Warriors. It's not believed to be a serious injury. It's tender. And listen, this is a team in Phoenix that has aspirations of playing into June again, and they're going to err on the side of caution with Devin Booker. But I'm told to expect he's going to miss at least a few games as they just make sure that hamstring gets right and then get him back for what they expect to be a very long run this season.
Absolutely, and we know that hamstring injuries, they can be tricky. Woj, please don't go too far. We're going to need you to come back. We have so many players to